And welcome one and all and everyone who's actually looking at this and will be listening to this also to the debut of our relationship series called Relationship Pneumatology Live. Right? Accompanying me on this series in particular is Keturah. Keturah, give everybody a shout out.
Hello everyone, I'm Keturah Bartholomew coming to you from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, we are live and actually coming to you from the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Right? Which is how we say it in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean. Right? We are also on quarantine. This quarantine is actually an internationally effective quarantine, and we thought that within this quarantine period, many people would be at home with their spouses, relationships, marriages, family relationships, friendships, and many having long distance relationships now within this quarantine for 14 and 15 days, some persons 20 days and more. All right, so we decided that this is actually an excellent time to begin to speak about relationship issues and to begin to see relationships from an objective perspective, right? And for those of you who are not aware and actually listening to this, right, as I said, my name is Zane as in Z-A-N-E, and both Keturah and I, we are the founders of the Zinc Keturah International Institute of Pneumatology, where we study the energetic mechanics, traditionally known as spirit, of all things, and especially in this case, in the context of relationship, human beings. Right. So, this series here, we are going to be looking at relationships through the energetic mechanics, and actually, in this series, a lot of insights will be shared regarding how relationships should be conducted, and also how much psychology has been subjective and not adequate and not equipped to deal with relationships. But we will look at the resolutions from our more than 20,000 hours of research and investigative research of these energetic mechanics and how they work in relationships. Right. So today we actually decided it'll be an awesome idea to start off with
Myths.
myths.
Relationship myths.
To start off with myths in relationships. Right. To start off with the myths that actually, well, what's the title? Myths that actually make us unhappy. Relationship myths that make us unhappy.
That's right. A lot of people have different ideas of what a perfect relationship is like. And unfortunately, some persons hold these myths very dear to their heart as truth. All right. So we're going to jump into these myths, have a look at them, and see how some of them are actually, or most of them, as a matter of fact, are disadvantageous to our relationships.
Let's dive into some of the thought patterns that you have learned from psychology and from your family and from Hollywood that you're implementing in these relationships and making life miserable. And some of them you're actually making life miserable by your own actions.
Indeed.
So where's myth number one that we have on this?
So myth number one, great relationships are effortless because true love is enough. A lot of people think
true love is enough.
A lot of persons think that a good relationships means good relationship, or having good relationships mean that you don't necessarily have to work at it.
And I know a lot of people like that. I've actually met a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean a lot of as a someone actually interacting in the local society, and also having relationships within the international community. There are a lot of people from many different countries, many different cultures that are very much influenced by what Hollywood is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that influence that Hollywood says, they actually believe that true love is just supposed to be there.
Yeah, it just exists. It
Yeah,
just
just
comes into being, and you don't have to put any work out. You don't necessarily have to build. Once you connect with this person, as they would put it, everything kind of pretty much falls into place.
hmm. Yeah.
It is a misconception that actually has unfortunately failed a lot of persons, a lot of relationships and marriages.
No, I've actually encountered it also in the Latin American culture, where not only English speaking culture, so I'm bilingual, and so I've encountered within the Latin American culture where people actually just believe this passion. There's this mystical and and magical passion that's supposed to be there. If it's not there, that person is not meant to be.
That's not the one.
Yeah, boy. And unfortunately, you could be walking away from the person that could very much be the person to help you
Hmm.
build love and build a life. Yeah, and this in particular is something that has actually plagued and damaged relationships. What was myth number two?
So we're looking at myth number two. If partners really love each other, they know each other's needs and feelings. I
Oh,
just,
right. So
oh
so so
my,
so basically, what that thought pattern is that these relationships are actually built. That's where these come in, and this knowledge of what the partner needs takes place by telepathy. Yeah,
right, yeah. I
we.
think there are probably some classes for that too.
So where do I learn telepathy 101? Yeah, I need an introductory course.
We both need to sign up on that one.
Yeah, brother. That's see what you're talking about. Yeah, another relationship myth is you actually come into this person, you're just supposed to sense.
Yeah,
You're just supposed to know what your partner needs. And of course, if the partner doesn't know what you need, then there's grounds for termination and grounds
sure
for,
will.
well, that person not meant to be.
Hmm.
So you start at a disadvantage. Way.
Frustration.
What kind of experience you have with that?
I hope my expressions,
Yeah,
my
boy.
expressions talk about it.
Yeah, we have plenty of people in the society, both male and female, that actually approach relationships like that.
I've unfortunately, for some time, before coming into the understanding of how relationships function and stuff like that, I unfortunately was one of those that was that groomed relationships from the perspective of the the fairy tales, the as you put it, what the movies put out, and what some of the fruits that I've encountered in that was just to name a few: frustration, um, feeling unfulfilled, expectations not being met, um, jealousy, which actually brings us to the next myth.
What's that?
That jealousy is a sure sign of love.
Oh my goodness. Jealousy is a sure sign of love.
Hmm.
Okay. Many people will beg to differ on that point.
A
But
lot of people understand that jealousy is something healthy in a relationship.
okay. All right. So basically, what you're saying is that you actually start a relationship, and if jealousy is healthy, then it's supposed to be there all the time. So mental peace, no mental peace is healthy in a relationship.
Well, this just gets in. This just keeps getting better.
Mental
Another myth,
peace. Okay, go
another
ahead.
myth that I've encountered amongst um a lot of persons in the society that I've been groomed in is the myth that getting married or having a baby will strengthen the relationship or will resolve some issues. A lot of women tend to hold on um
You
to the
see the
getting married part.
you see the expression on my face right now. It blank.
It's been a common misconception that getting married or having offspring for someone will actually make the relationship better or more fulfilling, will give the other person a reason to hold on. Um,
Again, how if the relationship was actually not functioning prior to an actual
mhm,
commitment, a mutual commitment, it would actually function magically because of the presence of someone. I know a lot of action. I know in societally that a lot of women have that tendency to think that once they get pregnant for the man,
mhm.
that it would actually be a form of lockdown.
Right. Yeah.
I
I've
don't
heard
know.
women say that.
And some men actually think that if they get a woman pregnant, it's also a tie down or a lockdown. So they use it as a means to manipulate a connection. They use it as a means of manipulating the person into being with them.
Yes.
Is
That's exactly what it is.
that can be love?
It's
That's
not sincere.
that's insincerity. That is deception. That is
That's right.
entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's also something that we with the presence of that concept. Hello.
Yes. Sorry about
Okay.
that. You see me.
Yeah, with the presence of that concept, you've had many people who seem to think that um there's a there's a how do we put that, that there is some magical formula by the
Right.
birth of some new human being. There's some magical formula that will just unite. And what you're looking at is difference in the reference points.
Hmm.
Because if a relationship actually is not functioning, I don't understand what in the world people think that will take place when they use either making a child, and another thing people use actually is marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They think that getting married to the person will just lock the person down.
Yeah, I've had persons tell me about their perspective on it rather is that when you make that leap or that step, as people will put it, that it's different and things are going to get better and so on. And um,
How? By magic?
well, that's where we're going to elaborate on these points.
Yeah, that's two very separate reference points for the relationship
Indeed.
there. Where we
As a
have
matter of fact,
varying reference points, that is nonsense. You're heading for a massive crash.
exactly what I've seen that leads to major destruction, if not immediately, down the line, a few years down the road. It is
Codependency,
inevitable.
dread and saturated codependency.
Hmm.
What's the next myth?
The next myth is that we're looking at, okay,
Oh,
myth.
I just want to let the listeners and the viewers know that you may have some background noise here. Just bear with us because we're actually doing this from our homes, and everybody's at home, so we have the little noises in the background. So just understand the quarantine atmosphere. Go ahead.
Both partners should be willing to change for a successful relationship.
How? And to what? What is the destination?
So according to an author, something that I found online here. After the initial stage of infatuation, after that has passed, many persons resort to fantasy, wishing that they can improve or change their partner's particular qualities so as to enjoy a flawless relationship.
All right, so we're talking about the partner changing to match the other partner, or the partner trying to change their partner. Which one are we talking about here?
I think it can actually go both ways. Persons interpret it both ways. What persons believe is that having, as a matter of fact, a lot of persons enter the relationship acknowledging the person that they are with for who they are at that point in time or whatever they present themselves to be. And after the emotions are all entangled and stuff like that, um, sometimes you tend to hear persons talking about, if you love me, then you should do this, or you should do this, or you should. So what you see there is that persons are attempting to change a person's character, quality, whatever it is, behavior, to suit the other person in the name of love,
Right.
which again is another form of entitlement.
Massive entitlement, codependency again.
Exactly. So if you met, let's say Freddie, for example, if you met Freddie hanging out with his guys, having his guys' night every Friday night or Saturday night or whatever it is, what I've seen women do is enter the relationship and then attempt to manipulate Freddie into changing his activities against his own will to suit the woman's needs. A
So
lot of women tend to do that.
so you that important, right? Society actually, and there's something that society is actually given different genders.
Right.
And for those of you listening to this and viewing this, you notice that we will not make gender differentiations here because we consider gender differentiations a bias. And from the Institute of Pneumatology, we have understood that it is the same spirit in different bodies, and therefore a, a gender identification or a gender bias is simply your subjective perspective that has no reference point. And if it is subjective, then it is opinionated. And if
Yeah.
it is opinionated, then it is unintelligent. So from our research in particular, we've actually realized that that the same spirit that is in a man is the same spirit that is in a woman. What you have is culturally indoctrinated genders. Well, cultural indoctrination concerning genders. And psychology actually supports this by referring to genders as though they're different animals. But in the context of energetic mechanics, it's the same energy, it's the same spirit. Therefore, what you're doing is that you actually one horse and the next gender is another horse. And you have actually indirectly or directly separated the horses and saying, well, this is a special species of horse and the female horse is a special species of horses. And from a different angle, what you're also doing is actually shutting down your intelligence on the matter, because once you identify the other gender as a different species, what you're actually indicating is that there is no possibility of actually comprehension of the same
Right.
spirit that is in you and the other gender. Right? So within this series, you will not hear us make gender biases. As I just explained, we understand that to be a very, very opinionated. And objectively, if the same spirit is there, then those who actually lean towards gender biases will be subject to the biases. And hence we have this gender empowerment taking place,
Hmm.
which in itself is an acknowledgement of inferiority.
Indeed, it is.
Yes. So let's move on to the other myth.
The other myth that we have here is that couples therapy or couples relationship sessions, as a matter of fact, are for failing relationships.
The Western perspective in your skin again.
Yeah, that's equivalent to waiting for your car engine to cease before taking it to a mechanic, rather than maintaining the engine and taking it to the mechanic who will give you proper diagnostics to ensure that it is functioning perfectly. What a lot of
Right.
people tend to do is wait until it crashes, and then you have to call a wrecker to pick you up on the side of a highway.
So isn't actually waiting for the mechanic, waiting for problems with the vehicle or waiting for problems in the relationship to go by the mechanic actually uh um what's the word an acknowledgement and an indirect profession that you're ignorant on relationships in the first place?
Indeed.
Because if you're actually looking for the therapist to actually sort out the issue, then what you just confessed
Mm-hmm.
indirectly is that you are very ignorant concerning the relationship and you now want to consult someone who's a professional to give you an idea as to what the mechanics of the relationship are.
Right.
So if you actually wait 30 years to go and see this therapist for 30 years, you actually have a personal perspective, a subjective perspective of what a relationship is, number one. And if that is the case, then if your perspective is not objective, there is no objective reference point, then you in the relationship have been functioning very entitled because what you've been doing is actually holding the other person responsible to your perception and your
Mm-hmm.
definition of a relationship. So you're entitled and you're also functioning as an an emotional oppressor.
Indeed. So that's 30 years of sowing destruction, as a matter of fact.
30 years of oppressing. So technically, there was no relationship because a relationship, as we know it from the energetic mechanics, start with simple agreement. And if there is no and if there is none of that, then you were never in a relationship. What you were in actually is a master servant relationship. Somebody relationship assume
Right.
emotional importance and demanding service to the grand lordship, emotional lordship. And when it breaks down, the emotional lordship breaks down, then you're run by the mechanic.
Right. So
So
you
technical,
wait,
yeah.
crash and burn.
So technically, with the vehicle, it's like you're a driver. I love that they use that because technically, what you're doing is actually saying you're a driver who have no knowledge of the mechanics of the vehicle. You driving that vehicle ignorantly, damaging that vehicle. Have no knowledge, and when the vehicle break down, and you run by the mechanic and say this need to fix. But have you been driving the vehicle intelligently in the first place?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all. Next myth we're going to look at is this one in particular. I'm very familiar with within the denominational circle, that there's one person for everyone.
I think we will end on that one. You see right there, that right there, that's enough. That's enough myths for one session, boy.
I think that this one in particular is the most of all. I find them the most irritating one,
Why is that?
because a lot of persons, especially persons who are married, enter into a relationship with who those who enter into relationships with this myth or with this understanding tend to live most of their lives within the relationship unhappy, because they believe that there is only one person, or that person is the one. And so they subject themselves and the other person to this relationship for however the duration may be, with that understanding. And besides that, they take no personal responsibility
That is what
on top of it.
that is what it come down to there. That is exactly what it come down to. So technically, if we understand from the perspective of pneumatology that you are spirit, and therefore you are mind, and intelligence is the natural function of the energy. Therefore, for you to be functioning as a spirit, especially as a son of God, is to be functioning in intelligence. The intelligence have to be working.
Right.
Intelligence being defined here as the ability to apply knowledge. So when you take that approach, you use the perfect term there for it. What you do when you take that approach, what you're doing is actually telling God, hey, I was a spouse, and I don't want to think about this. I just want you to give me something. And the question here is God going to function contrary to his creative order? Because if God gives you intelligence, as King Solomon says, he will find it. You finds a wife, finds a good thing, which means you have to look, you have to apply
Right.
intelligence, you have to have a criteria because you can't find what you don't know where you look if you don't know what you're looking for.
Indeed.
So to teach that this is one person that God creates is a hands-off approach where you take no responsibility for the mate, and when the mate not functioning properly, that's the first thing they're gonna do. Blame God.
Mm-hmm. This is the one
Right.
that you have given me, Lord.
That sounds funny. But that in particular would be the, as I said, let's make that the last myth that we cover here today, and we can actually look into that to the rest of the myths there tomorrow. How many myths do you have on the list again?
Well, I mean, there are hundreds to go through, but we will actually put a stop on about 10.
Nice. And
We'll
how much we
stop at
cover?
10.
And how much we cover today?
I'll have to get back with you on that one.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily good in order.
All right. So that's enough. That's enough. Let's use it at the word myths and pneumatological and illogical concepts to fill our minds with for the day.
Yeah, boy, that's enough.
All right. So for those of you looking at this and doing this, feel free to like and share this within this quarantine period. We are actually going to be doing this steadily daily, half-hour segments. Well, we'll try to keep it within half hour and not more than that.
Yeah.
Where we dive into, well, you notice that we have started with myths in relationships that you're using that actually destroying a relationship. We're starting with the myths, and then after this, we start the myths, then we take one myth one by one and break it down to show you why it is unintelligent and what is the pneumatological mechanics or the energetic mechanics behind it, so that it actually brings some perspective. All right, we are also relationship pneumatology coaches, and so stay tuned. If you actually would like to know more about this, you can actually click the link in the description of this video. You can join our free forum where we are presently preparing an ebook. The ebook has not dropped in the forum as yet. Presently preparing an ebook where we'll actually cover 5 things that you can do to start redirecting your relationship into energetic intelligence and actually have the energetic union that you've always wanted, that psychology has actually given you hints of, but can't get you there. And Hollywood has properly brainwashed you on. You're never going to get there. All right. So this brings us to the end of our segment here. As I mentioned, like and follow our Facebook page. We will also be opening our YouTube channel where these things would be listed, so you can know where you're going. But as I said, click the link in the description and follow very, very soon. By the end of this week in particular, we're going to be starting a 7-day relationship rekindling challenge. So you can look forward to that. Kelly, you want to say anything before
Okay.
we sign out?
Well, actually, that'll be all. I'm looking forward to the upcoming sessions where we're going to elaborate on these things. Today we just put our fingers on the icing of the cake
Yeah, we just touched the
and
topics
tasted it
today
a bit.
and just give our impressions of the myths,
Yeah.
especially through the lens of the energetic mechanics. You realize when we started divulging that how all these things are super unintelligent.
Yes, that's the part where I look forward to the most.
All right,
Breaking
so
this down.
stay tuned. This is Zayden Katura, Relationship Pneumatology Live. Blessings and much love.